Ladies and gentlemen, very big welcome to DEN203 IT Strategy and Management. We are now in week 9. We are almost getting towards the end, the home stretch. And yep, going well. I've seen, we've already marked a lot of the, so we'll mark all the assignments and we've released all the marks unless there's been any issue with misconduct that has been investigated. For those that are still pending. And I would like to go and mention very importantly that I've noticed some of you that have actually went and submitted their assignment late, but they haven't done a special consideration. For those people, I basically go and say, make sure you go and submit a special consideration so that it is going to go and be reviewed by the admin team so that they will let us know whether they can actually approve that late submission. Because while I might mark it and I might tell you what it's worth, if there's a penalty because it's submitted over 5 days late, I won't be able to give you any mark because it's against the actual rules in SISCC. So if any of you submitted late, you can see that I've marked your assignment as I would mark it for anybody who came to the class, but I would have put in a note that you're not eligible for a mark. Please make sure you submit a special consideration because we would like to hopefully give you a mark because you've done the work and we try to go and help you accordingly. But I am very thankful for all of you having worked hard to be able to go and submit your work, and I want you to continue working hard for the remaining tasks that we are going to go and be submitting. Now, ladies and gentlemen, we are going to be talking about week 9, which is about an organizing framework for the strategic management of IS and IT. We need to manage information and IS investments. How do we manage it? What sort of frameworks, what sort of tools do we have to be able to go and manage and govern all of this information system and IT that we want to go and deliver within the organization for us to get the strategic management? We're going to talk about that topic. We're going to speak about so many various areas in relation to that particular topic. Now, I want to remind you that our details are available in Moodle for anybody who would like to go and, contact us if there's any problem, any issues. I've noticed some people communicating issues relating with their groups, and anyone who communicated that issue, I've tried to go and deal with that issue on a timely basis. So if anyone is having any extra problem today, it is very important to stay till the end of the class, and then we'll be able to go and try to see what the issue and try to go and actually address that problem accordingly. Now, ladies and gentlemen, I want to remind you all about the copyright because, yes, we've submitted the first assignment. Yes, we've had many academic misconduct cases in it, but we don't need to go and have any academic misconduct cases in the assignments that are going to be submitted now, so that we still have the chance to go and submit other assignments. So please make sure you get these done, without any copying, any pasting. Try to make sure you're using all of these paraphrasing, and that's basically something that you need to make sure everyone in your team is actually doing, because you're having teams of number of people working together, and we want to make sure that those people are going to go and be making sure there's no copying and pasting or poor paraphrasing that is actually presented to any of the work that we're actually doing. So please make sure you follow that into a lot of details. What have I spoke about last week? Well, we spoke about investment, and we spoke about the priority setting policies. How do we kind of set different priorities in terms of the investment you would like to go and do? We spoke about justifying and evaluating all of our IS and IT investments. We spoke about justifying any business application. Why am I going to go and get a business application within my area if I'm not basically justifying that that is going to go and generate some sort of benefit for me in the organization? If I'm going to go and implement an infrastructure, I need to link that infrastructure investment to what I'm trying to go and deliver, to the application I'm trying to deliver, to the strategy that I'm trying to go and deliver. So I need to go and link any infrastructure investment to the actual application that I'm trying to go and deliver within the organization. I need to go and look about risk. What about risk? Well, there's going to be various risks. We need to know about assessing and managing all of our investment risks. And there are so many various approaches, but simply it's about really trying to mitigate that risk, trying to go and create some contingency action if those risks are going to go and become a reality to enable us to go and reach the right outcomes. We need to go and manage the portfolio of our investments. And when I say about the portfolio, high potential investments, strategic investments, key operational investment, or even support investment, I need to go and manage a portfolio of all of these investments to help me to go and reach the right goals. I need to set priorities among all of these investments. Which one is going to be more important than the other? Because in every area of these investments, there are some investments that are more important than others, and there are others that are less important. So it's about really managing all of these priorities in relation to the various investments we're trying to go and really make. And we spoke about the organizational IS and IT portfolio and investment management maturities. We need to make sure that, we're going to go and make a matching with all of these portfolio. What are we working on? We need to go and make sure that we are working in a mature manner. Sometimes we might go and be selecting to go and implement an IS and IT solution, but that's because we are thinking about it without, by itself, like an IT department or someone believe it's a great idea, and they went and they started implementing that great idea that they believe is great, but they haven't spoken to anybody. They haven't engaged the customers. They haven't enjoyed the business. They haven't really made sure that it's aligned with the strategy. So that is not the sort of ways you need to go and be making all of your strategic alignment and introduction within the organization. You need to basically go and operate in a much different manner. And when you go and talk about organizational maturity, it's about, we become more mature into how we are selecting all of these various investments we are going to be working on at any particular point of time. So we need to choose the right thing to go and work on at any point of time. Now, what are we going to be talking about today? We're going to talk about the strategic management requirements. What do we need to do to make a strategic management? Do we just set up a strategy? Do we change a strategy? What do we really do? We're going to go and mention that. We're going to talk about positioning and managing all of our IS and IT in an organization. We're going to move away from a functional view, which is only a functional department or one area of IS and IT thinking, to an organizational wide perspective. So how do we think about everybody being interconnected to get the job done? How do we think about the capability we have in an organization? How do we have think about all of our competencies that will enable us to go and reach the right goals? We're going to speak about IS and IT governance. Governance is only about managing the processes, managing the finances, managing the structures. We need to have an IT governance, way for us to be able to manage IS and IT. And why it's important, because it helps you ensure that whatever solution we're trying to go and be implementing is actually being implemented. We need to know what decisions need to go and be governed to be able to get the outcomes to be delivered. We need to create a framework, for IS and IT decision making to choose what we're going to work on. And we need to think about all of these instruments of governance that support us to be able to go and get the behaviors we would like to have our employees go and demonstrate to be able to go and reach the right goals. So when I talk about the strategic management requirements, when I talk about IS and IT strategic management, it's not simply about let me create a strategy. It is also about let me go and implement that strategy. Thank you. So it's about simply not creating the strategy, but also it's about let me go and actually implement it. And when I talk about implementing something, we talk about so many things relating to go and all talking about implementation. Let me go and get the programs. Let me go and get the projects managed. Let me go and get all of these, the resources that I need. Let me go and get all of these applications that I need. And the reason why I need to manage the programs and the projects to help me get what I want, to help me get the application, to help me get the infrastructure, because it is basically about, using, getting the new technology, new application, using them to be able to get all of these business change, to be able to get all of these new technology, to be able to get all of these services that we are expected to go and really deliver for our long-term goals within the business to go and really be achieved. When I talk about overall governance framework, we need to have that framework. We need to know how we can manage all of these things, from strategic development through to realization. There's no point simply to go and plan something if you're not really working to be able to go and ensure it is actually being delivered. So from strategy development through to the realization of intended business outcomes, from IS and IT investment and expenditure. We need to go and spend the money to be able to go and ensure and make the management that is needed to be able to go and realize all of these outcomes we would like to go and really realize. So we go and create that strategy formulation. We go and say, what are we going to go and do? What are we going to be delivering? Well, when you're trying to create that strategy, you're trying to create so many various items of the work. You're trying to kind of behave in an appropriate manner. You're trying to be creative. You're trying to be innovative. You're trying to go and have people informally sitting together and thinking about what could go wrong or what could go great. You have all of these formal planning, not simply informal, but formal planning. We have all of these opportunities we find. We try to go and try to benefit from, all of these things we're trying to go and effectively control, and use and integrate it. So we don't want to have one idea by itself. We want to have all of these things to go together. We want creativity and innovation and informal thinking, informal planning, and all of these things to be really integrated into a particular manner. We need to have a process to be able to go and ensure a particular outcome is actually going and being delivered to us. So that's the sort of things we need to go and really bear in mind to get the outcomes we would like to go and get. Now, ladies and gentlemen, we also need all of these feedback or control mechanism. And that feedback and control mechanism is basically about ensuring that the plans and their implementation are appropriate to the strategic direction. And if things basically turn out not to be great in terms of what we're trying to go and deliver, then what we need to do, we need to be able to go and make the adjustments that are needed to help us to be able to reach the outcomes we would love to go and reach. So it is as important to go and select the outcomes we would like to go and do and deliver, as it is actually important for us to be able to go and ensure that any changes that need to be made are actually made to help us go and reach the right outcomes. We talk about this example. What are we trying to go and do? We are actually defining our mission, our objective. We're assessing the situation. We're assessing all of our options, and we are selecting something we would like to go and really go and do. Once we select what we're going to go and do, we basically create that strategic planning of the options selected and how we're going to go and really work on delivering all of these strategic options that we have selected. And then we're going to go and start implementing whatever we decided to go and implement at a particular point of time. But along all the time, what we need to go and do, we need to make sure we are always thinking about the feedback. We need to give people the feedback. We need to be able to go and get the improvement that are going to be needed to be able to go and get the job done. So let's go and establish all of these strategic directions of what we want to go and do. Let's go and define the strategies we would like to go and work on, and let's go and ensure we are going to go and achieve the strategies that are planned. It's not enough for us to plan what we want to go and do. It's also very important to ensure that whatever we plan has actually went and has been delivered. Now, ladies and gentlemen, many CIOs are being held accountable for ensuring that we are getting the benefit from all of these IT spending we're doing. But that's a bit unfair, because you want the CIO to be able to be held accountable for something that only happens when people in business choose to use the practices in an effective manner. The IS person or the IT person might go and implement what the business really needs. It might be a great solution, and they've implemented it, and it is supposed to go and add the value we want them to go and add. But, what if people in the business don't use it? That doesn't make it the actual fault of all of these people who are working in the IS field. Okay, we need to basically bear that in mind, that we might get the best practices, but you might have people within the organization who are not really interested in implementing the change and in basically implementing all of these changes accordingly, and the culture that is basically needed. Even if IT infrastructure applications and services are provisioned, even if they're delivered directly from the cloud, many issues associated with IS and IT will not go away. So don't think if I'm going to go and outsource my job to someone else outside my business, the outcome is going to go and be great. Because the simple answer is the outcome is not going to be great. You still need to go and manage all of these things and ensuring that the outcomes are actually being delivered. Even with total outsourcing of all of these services, we still need to know, where do we want to go and head? What are we going to outsource? Are we going to go and try to get process standardization? Are we going to get a lot of integration? Are we going to go and define innovation? What are we trying to go and get? Because we need to go and be very clear in terms of what are we trying to go and get for the business to be able to go and help us to reach the right outcomes. Don't think simply, I'm going to go and give it to someone outside my business and the result is going to be great, because that is not how things go and actually work, my friends. Any questions?
No, sir.
Ladies and gentlemen, decisions which might have previously been made wrongly by IT management. A lot of time, what we're going to go and do in the business in terms of IS and IT, who used to do it? Oh, the IT management. They decide what needs to go and be done. That's a wrong perspective. Okay, all of these decisions that used to be done with IT, deciding what needs to be done. Yes, you need IT leadership. Yes, you need architecture and so on. But all of these decisions are now being moving away to basically non-IT executive, embedded in the business. The business has to tell me, what do we need to go and deliver? Not IT. IT is only one side. It is about the business who needs to go and tell me what needs to go and be delivered. We talk about outsourcing. Outsource, at the same time, some of the supply side, supplying what the business really wants, which might have been performed in-house, are now actually being outsourced for other people to go and do. So what we're trying to go and do, we are relying more on outsourcing. Can anybody tell me why we are relying more on outsourcing some of the IT and IS work we want to be done? Why are we outsourcing them to people outside my business? What do you think? Why are we doing outsourcing?
Cheaper cost.
Cheaper cost. Is that the only reason?
Main reason?
Yeah, that's a very good reason, but there are other very important reasons and valuable reasons. Why is, for example, Apple outsourcing all of its iPhone manufacturing? Is that because it's cheaper?
Raw material available easily on the other side.
Yeah, correct. But another thing is because these people have the capability that Apple does not have to be able to go and ensure the job that Apple wants is actually being delivered. So sometimes you are actually getting better efficiency. Sometimes you're getting, more services or more skills that are not available in your organization. So it's not simply because it's cheaper. Cheaper is a lot of time the reason, but there are other reasons for us to be able to go and bear in mind why companies say we would like to go and give things to be done outside the organization. But bottom line is we are doing a lot of outsourcing, but we are also making sure that the decision that needs to be made are now more in line with what the business really wants and tell us they need than alternatively. So it's very important to really go and bear that in mind. We need to move away from thinking about every function by itself to have an IS and IT organizational wide perspective. We need to have the capability across the organization. We need to have the competences across the organization. And when I talk about my competence, I talk about 6 interrelated aspects of competences, which I'll explain to you very, very shortly. But what I'll also talk about, we also talk about having the IS and IT capability, having the IS and IT competence, and having the resources that we need. Now, when we talk about the resources help us to be able to go and get the competencies. And when I talk about the competencies, they help me to go and reach the capability I would like to go and have. So we need to have the resources. The resources build my competency. In other words, I become very good at doing something. And that competency helped me basically capable of being able to go and reach my long-term goals within the organization. But what are all of these 6 interrelated macro level competencies? Well, one, we need to go and be able to go and think about the strategy. The ability to identify and evaluate the implications of IT opportunities as an integral part of the business strategy. So business and strategy needs to be basically related at the same time. We need to also go and think about the IS contribution. My strategy, I need to have an ability to translate my strategy. What does that mean in terms of, IS? Well, what does it mean in terms of processes? What does it mean in terms of the information that could help me to get those processes, from those processes? What does it tell me in terms of the application investments that I need to make to be able to go and get all of this information that the business really needs to be able to implement the right strategy? Then we talk about the capability. If I want to go and get that information, there's applications, there's processes, I need to have the right technology in place. So let's talk about the architectures we need. Let's talk about the technology infrastructure we need. Let's talk about the resourcing plans that we need to be able to help us implement this strategy, and specifically the IT strategy that must be implemented for us to be able to go and reach the business strategy. Let's use things. What? The ability to maximize the benefit realized from the implementation of IS and IT. Now, that won't happen if I'm not actually exploring through IS that information that is available and trying to exploit that information and use it to the best benefit. And that information will be available anywhere. In information, it could be in application, it could be in technology, it could be in the services we deliver. They all might be generating all of this information that I am able to go and really use. But also we need to go and develop all of these solutions, the ability to deploy resources. Don't simply create a business strategy, implement it, deploy the resources, devise, provision, implement, and operate all of these business solutions to exploit the capability of information technology. So let's get that technology to really be available, and let's make sure that then we are able to kind of use that technology to be able to reach the information that the business really needs. And finally, you need to have the IT supply. What is that supply? The ability to create and maintain an appropriate and adequate information technology and application supply chain and resources capacity. All of this is really highlighted in this graph on the right. You need the strategy that is business driven, and that strategy, it basically helps you to go and get all of these definition of the IS contribution that basically needs to be done and delivered to deliver that strategy, and the capability we need to be able to go and implement that strategy. We need to then have the supply of the right technology to get the capability. We need to then, once we go and deliver all of these solutions, we need to be able to use all of this information to help us go and get the IS contribution to contribute to the business strategy. So everything goes back to that business strategy we're trying to go and really deliver. And to get that job done, we need various things, such as we need all of these resources. So we talk about the resource level that is needed. We talk about the organizing level that is needed, and we talk about the enterprise level that is needed. When I talk about the resource level, okay, what do I do, in terms to be able to get the IS capability? We need all of these components to get that capability. What is that? Well, I need the right resources, people with the right business knowledge, people with the right experience, people with the right skills. We need technical skills, technical knowledge, and technical experience. We need people, not simply to have the knowledge. What's the point of me having the best knowledge in the world if I'm not behaving in a certain manner that I am able to go and ensure that we are going to be getting something really going and delivered for the business? So we have all of those people, expertise, business level, technical level, and so on. We need to organize them in a certain manner. We need to have people do certain roles. We need them to fit with a certain structure. We need to have them follow and complete certain processes. And when they actually go and do that, we're basically trying to go and deliver, to create that IS and IT competencies. We are competent because we can do certain roles, we can get a report to certain people, and we can follow certain processes to be able to go and get the right IS and IT competencies. We can get the right information that the business really needs. Now, what is the sort of IS and IT competencies you need? Well, you need to think about what is the strategy really. That's the enterprise level. And then based on that strategy, we're going to need to think about the right investment. And that strategy and investment, that is the one that gives me the capability to be able to go and do things. We need to have the IS and IT capability to get the job done. And that capability, we basically get decided by knowing what the strategy is, knowing what the investment needs to be made. And then once I basically go and get all of these strategy and all of these investment, I'll be able to get my competencies, and that competencies is only able to be delivered because I'm having the right resources, that I'm really using them in the right manner and ensuring people are behaving in the right manner to be able to go and get the jobs to go and be completed. Now, we need a lot of governance. We might have all of these goals we want to achieve. We might have all of these resources. We might have all of these organizational levels and so on. For example, you need the governance. You need to manage things. Guys, how can I make sure that employees in an organization behave in a certain manner? What can I do to make sure they behave in a certain manner? What do you think?
We need to complete our certain given task.
How can I make sure you are completing your task? How can I influence you to behave and do your task?
You need to make a set of rules.
I need to create rules. Okay, I need to measure your performance. I need to give you compensation. I need to pay your wages. I need to set up all of your reporting responsibilities. So we need to manage things, not simply, oh yeah, I have the right people and the right skills and the job is going to get done. No, you need to have all of these way of managing. You need to have governance. And that's why we're talking about governance, effective governance structures, effective processes, effective mechanism. Encourages management to make decisions. These decisions must reflect the shareholders' interest and behave ethically towards stakeholders. So if you have your employees, if you have your customers, if you have the government regulators, you need to ensure you are going and acting in a certain manner. You need to have a structures, processes, and mechanism that are helping you to go and reach your goals that really needs to go and be reached. For example, the law says you need to go and make sure that you are giving the employees a safe working environment. You need to give them that. That's a law. So how do you do that? Well, you need to have the right processes. People have to follow them. You need to have the right mechanism. You need to have the right structure that, you need to work here and you can't go here, and you need to there's all of these lines and you have to walk on these lines when you are in the warehouse, because otherwise you're going to get sick or you're going to sit in a certain manner. You need to create a right way of managing to ensure that things are going to go and happen in the right manner. When I talk about governance, it is about promoting consistent and coherent decision-making across an organization regarding information system and technology to maximize the value we are achieving. So if we say, for example, we are only able to go and make our investment if we are going to make a evaluation that investment is going to generate benefit, then we need to make sure that everybody is going to be following that processes and these policies to ensure that the job is actually being done. Now, how do you make sure that people are doing the right thing? Well, the only way you can make sure they are doing the right thing if you go and tell them that what is the right thing, and you set up all of these accountabilities to make sure they are going to be doing the right thing. So you establish a governance framework. It entails allocating accountabilities. We're going to make you accountable if things don't go right, putting people into various responsibilities. We talk about defining processes. We talk about setting all of these policies. We talk about establishing committees that could basically evaluate things and help communication happen between various areas of the business and help decisions be made in terms of what investments we need to go and make. You need to have all of these measures to make sure that what we want people to go and deliver is actually being delivered. We need to create all of these mechanisms where I'm not having IT people by themselves and business people by themselves. How am I going to go and bring them together in a way that we are going to have a combined decision-making process to help us go and reach the right goals? So, ladies and gentlemen, in designing all of these organizing framework for strategic IS and IT management, there are essentially three main issues we need to go and really think about. First, we need to ask, what are all of these critical governance decisions? Both the demand decisions and what are the supply decisions? Demand what the business needs, and supply all of these. Who's going to supply us? How are we going to go and all of these supplies done? How are the decisions to be made? How are we going to go and decide on what the business need is? How are we going to go and decide on what the supply is going to go and look like? The process, will there be unilateral decisions? Are they going to be shared decisions? Is it going to be only the CIO making the decision? Is it going to be the CEO making the decision? Is it going to be a group of people sitting together and making the decisions? What is going to go and be done to be able to ensure that the decisions are actually being made? Who make the decision? Is it senior management? Is it business managers? IT management? Is it a committee? Is it maybe partners? Or are we trying to go and get all of these combination of things that needs to go and be happen? So the three things I need to go and bear in mind. What are the decisions? How are the decisions to be made? And who is going to go and make the decision? Now, the desired decision-making behavior can usually be captured in one sentence in that graph that is on the side. For example, for funding level for IT, what is the desired behavior? The behavior we want is we want the executive management team should determine my annual spending on IT. Okay, great. What about my IS strategy? The IS strategy should be business driven and involve all heads of business units in its formulation. Okay, great. So we know how it should be, we know who should be involved and so on. Okay, what about the IT capabilities? Well, group CIO, okay, great, should determine technical capabilities required to implement IS strategy with input. Okay, great. So we know who needs to make decision, we know who needs to go and be involved and so on. Managing projects, all projects to follow a similar methodology. Okay, so we know what needs to happen there. Only one way to do it, to do IT-enabled change projects. What about change management? One process to follow for any software change. What about IT security? Total organizational conformance to all of these set of policies. So you are trying to go and capture what sort of behavior we are actually expecting for various types of decisions within the organization. There are so many decisions to make in terms of managing and getting the governance of all of this IS and IT, but how do we want people to go and behave is really something we really need to go and bear in mind. Now, once choices have been made regarding how decision-making should be, the next step is to select the most appropriate instrument to promote and support the required behavior. So if I go, we're going to make a decision in a certain manner, no problem. So I know we need to go and ensure that every IT project is going to go and follow a specific evaluation approach before we select it and we start working on it. Okay, great. I know what we need to do. I know that's how we're going to go and need to go and make the evaluation. The second question is how I'm going to go and make sure that people are doing those behaviors. How we are going to be making sure that people are doing the right thing to be able to go and really get the right outcomes. So what we're talking about here, we're talking about a number of items. We talk about authority, the individual, group, or forum that should make the decision and is ultimately answerable to the outcome of the decision. Who has the authority for both making a decision and ensuring whether the outcome has been delivered? And if it's not delivered, they're basically going to go and be held accountable. What is the process? How is the decision will be made to enable consistency in decision making and in resource allocation? Who is responsible? The individuals or bodies responsible for the day-to-day execution of the decision we are basically planning to go and make. Coordination, the mechanism and process for ensuring coherence among all of these IS 90 decision areas. People need to be coordinating what needs to be happening across various people. If one department needs to do something, we need to make sure we are coordinating the work across various departments to ensure the job has been done. And finally, monitoring the approaches for policing decision, ensuring conformance across the organization to decision making. We need to make sure that the organization is doing what we tell them they need to go and be made. And you can see an example on this graph where we say, all right, there are various decisions, and these are related to these decisions I'm mentioning here. Okay. And, you know, it's saying, all right, who has the authority? What's the process we're going to follow? Who is responsible? Who is coordinating the decision? Who is monitoring the decision? This is because we want to basically move away from simply having the decision to basically selecting the most appropriate instrument to ensure that that decision is actually being done and implemented. So to be able to go and ensure it's done, you need to have people with the right authority. You need to make sure people are following the right process. You need to make sure we have people who are responsible. You need to make sure people who are basically going to coordinating change across various areas, and people who are monitoring that the change has been delivered. For example, if my decision about my IS strategy, for example, this is just an example. My authority could be my CEO will have to go and have the authority in terms of deciding what my IS strategy needs to go and be. Great. What is the process? We have an IS strategy process. Okay. Who's responsible for that process? We have the Chief Information Officer. Okay. Who is going to be coordinating the changes that need to be done? The IT steering committee will basically discuss with various people to ensure that the coordinating the change that they need to go and make in terms of selecting the strategy. Okay. Who is going to be monitoring that we are doing the right thing and selecting IS strategy? Again, the IT steering committee is going to be monitoring that we are reaching the IS strategy that we would like to go and make, and we're getting the right decisions. So you're basically moving away from simply having a decision that we're trying to go and make to actually getting to a stage where we are actually implementing that decision. We're putting people responsible to ensure that the job is actually being done the way we want it to go and really be done. Many governance instruments help us to be able to go and ensure we're going to get the desired decision-making behaviors. If I want to go and get people to behave in a certain manner, okay, there are many, many instruments that I need to think about that will help me to get people to behave in a certain manner. What we call them, they are structural instruments, horizontal instruments, functional instruments, and instruments for social integration. The structural instruments, things like what is my organizational structure and what are the roles of various people in the structure. When I have a structure, when I know whose role, I know basically who is needing to go and do what to be able to ensure we're going to go and get the certain behavior. We basically know who is responsible for getting the job done. We have the horizontal structures. You know, the steering committees, the knowledge sharing that needs to happen, the communication that needs to be happening. This is all about ensuring we are communicating horizontally. You know, we are all communicating with various people in the organization. We are all sharing knowledge together. We are all having all of these, you know, I mentioned earlier, we're having all of these coordination that is needed to ensure that the changes that need to be made, I mentioned that here, coordination. Ensuring that whatever we would like to go and implement is actually happening. So we need knowledge sharing, we need communication, we need all of these steering committees to able to ensure that that horizontal engagement is actually happening to implement and get the right behaviors to be delivered. We need functional instruments. We need the right processes for people to use. We need the right rules, we need the right procedures, we need the right policies. All of these basically support us to ensure that people are doing the right thing. Processes, that's a step by step. The rules, you know the rules you need to follow. The policy, you know what is your policy. You're following exactly how you need to go and be behaving based on these various specifications I've highlighted for you within the organization. Finally, nothing will happen within the organization without having a social integration. You might be working in the organization with other departments. You might be working with external partners. You need to make sure you are all having a shared culture, a shared language. So you need to go and work together to develop a common language, understanding each other, using a language that potentially is simple enough, for example, for my business department to be able to understand. Don't use an IT language that business department can't use. So let's create a common language that basically help us to get the sharing of that information that needs to go and really be occurring. Let's get that mutual understanding happening across various people in terms of how we need to engage, how we need to cooperate and do the job that needs to go and really be done together. We talk about all of this interrelatedness of all of these instruments and mechanism that also must be, recognized. They are related. The structure, yeah, okay, we have a structure, but we also have knowledge sharing. So that structure could facilitate communication. It could say, oh, this person communicate to that person, or this person communicate to that manager, or it could say, well, yes, we have a structure, but you can communicate with each other. That structure, you might have a structure saying, I have a HR department, but every HR department will need to have its own policy. It needs to have its own process that it needs to go and follow to be able to go and ensure the job is actually being delivered. We talk about social integration. Let's get people to have a common language. Let's get a common culture. How's that going to happen? Well, you need to go and try to bring people more together, let them engage together, let them go and understand, how the work of one area is going to affect another area. Let them go and understand the differences and finding a common way for them to be able to go and really work together. Now, that communication, for it to happen, we need to think about that common language. If there's no common language, how is that communication going to happen? So the horizontal instrument is as related to the social instrument, to that engagement. The process is as related to the structure, because the structure is all about, yeah, I have a department, I have a role, I'm HR, but what process do I need to go and use? It's all interrelated together to help us really reach the right goals we would like to go and really reach. There are within the organization many various policies, some policies that restrain certain behaviors and some policies that support certain behaviors. For example, if I go and say, all of you have to go and use the same technical compatibility standard, that's a constraining behavior. We have to all follow one standard. We have to all follow the same standard for buying equipment and services. We have to all follow the same common system. We have to go and, all follow that disaster recovery, security, and quality. We have to go and charge out and benefit claiming. What is that? If anybody want to come and use my system, I need to charge them for using it. Okay, what's going to happen there? Well, if people don't need to use that system, they won't use it. They will try to avoid it so that they don't have to go and pay for it. It's a, restraining policies. It's like I go and tell you, you can go and use as much water as you want in your home and you won't have to pay a penny. Or I might go and say, well, if you're going to go, I'm going to basically charge you based on how much water you use every day. So that's the sort of things. If I'm charging you based on how much money you're using, you probably will restrain yourself from using all of this money or all of this water. But if I'm not restraining, saying, oh, it doesn't matter, you're not going to pay for it, say, who cares? I'm going to go and use as much as I can. It's not really a problem that I need to really go and worry about. Enabling policies, some policies that enable us to behave in a certain manner. For example, making group resource services available to business units. If I'm making it available, then everybody's going to start coming and using those services that are available. If we can have a negotiation volume discounts, we have all of those people coming and working together to get a big discount. If we talk about managing all of these supplier relationships, it enables us to get a better outcome from working with all of these suppliers. If we basically, establish, I don't know, if we go and develop a common system, it basically allows people to be able to go and tap into that common system and basically use it for their advantage. So you can see there's all of these various, policies within the organization. Some of them, they will restrain how we are trying to go and behave, and some of them are going to go and enable us to be able to go and get people to go and behave in a certain manner. So some enabling policies, support our positive behavior, and some restraining policies basically stop us from doing certain actions that might not be potentially adding a lot of value for some reason. Any question about the lectorial, guys? We're going to be talking further about that topic when we go to the webinar. But anyone have any questions about what I covered so far today? We're going to go obviously in more details in the webinars, but any questions, I'll be very happy to answer them. Any questions?
No, sir.
Yes, sir.
All right. Do we have any group assessment questions or any group assessment issues? Okay.
Excuse me, sir.
Tell me.
So, what about the presentation? Do all of the guys have to talk, or just one of the leader?
Every single person needs to go and be presenting. It is basically, it must be equal contribution to everybody. Everyone has to contribute to it. And I basically recommend you listen to the video that is loaded under the assessment section. I'll show you that section probably now.
Okay, sir.
Give me 1 second. I'll show you. Okay, so if you go here, I will be able to show you under the assessment section. I recommend you listen to that video, which talks about every part, including the presentation, and there's that briefing document. But bottom line, every if I actually, I want to just stop that. I mentioned also. Okay, you see this information here. It's saying every member needs to go and be presenting, and it's basically recommending that it's not about reading. You need to basically go and prepare a few times before the presentation. It's giving you a minimum number and maximum number of slides that is allowed. So you need to basically follow that information. And I really encourage you to go and play the video that is available, which basically also talks about that particular topic. Does that answer your question? Is that clear, my friend?
Yes, sir.
All right. Any other
So
questions, guys? Yeah, go
So
on.
what's the total time to talk? Like 10 minutes for each student, or the total?
That's for everyone.
10 minutes to total group?
For the whole group. Everyone has 10 minutes. Yeah.
Okay.
Sir, I got one question.
Yes, go on.
Like we need to choose one bank while giving the example in the assessment. So like, do we need to choose like the bank that is in Australia, or like we can choose any bank? Like,
you need to talk about your assignment. So what did you talk about in your assignment? If I go back to the
so like we're required to like explain about the IS and IT like innovations like that are used in a bank,
So
and then
it's in the banking industry.
yeah.
Okay. So describe 2IS banking innovation and their impact. But it's saying students must work in groups and assigned to produce a report that analyzes IS and IT in the banking industry. So it's not saying specific bank, but then there's a question here. Choose a bank. Okay, so there's a question where I want you to choose a particular bank to demonstrate the model's applicability.
Yeah, that's what I was talking about. Like we need to choose the bank that is in Australia, or like
it doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter. Okay,
Doesn't
thank
matter.
you, sir.
Where you find research is what is really appropriate. It's just if you find research that is about a bank that is in Australia, that'll be great. If you find research about a bank that is overseas, that's also good. You might have maybe more research about international banks than you might find about local banks, but that's fine with me either way. Any bank will be fine.
Thank you, sir. Yeah, that's all.
No worries. Any other questions?
Can you tell me a little more about number 4, the bank's network diagram? It's about the value chain.
Yeah. Okay. So this draw the bank's network by applying learning from week 6. All right. Well, I'm gonna just Pause for a second. All right, you asked me a process and a question about the mapping. Guys, there's a number of ways you can really map the network. Bottom line, what I want you to bear in mind, I want you to show me that you understand that there are multiple interconnected parties that work together for us to be able to go and ensure the job basically gets delivered. For example, if I am here in the classroom, there are a number of various networks that I'm basically working with to be able to get the job done. I have SISC admin, I have SISC academics, I have to work with HR, I have to go and work with my internet provider, I have to go and work with my Apple computer. All of these I have to go and link with Zoom. All of these are part of my network that help me to go and ensure a job done. So we showed you various sort of figures in the actual classes. We showed you the value chain analysis, how you can analyze the various stages of the chain. We show you again, how you can look at suppliers, sales departments, all of these departments that exist within the business. And then you can think about all of these, operation, outside departments. You can think about people outside of your network and inside the network. We showed you about how you can think about supply, conversion, product and service logistics and consumption, which is really about the stages, before in a bank, for the bank to be able to, service all of those people. They are working with all of these networks. They are working with employees, with HR people, with the stores, with the ATM manufacturers. They have all of those various people they have to go and engage with to be able to get the job done. So we showed you, for example, value chain analysis. We showed you an example of a network. I showed you a graphical interface of when we are delivering service, how you might be the service provider and there's all of these networks of people you engage with. There's payment, there's location, there's network operator, there's web, there's hosting, there's marketing companies. There's all of these network of people you need to go and really engage with in order for you to be able to go and really reach a customer. So the question that I'm asking you in relation to that, in relation to the actual network, it basically requires you, draws a network, the bank's network by applying the learning from week 6. I want you to show that the bank is interconnected. There are so many various people they have to go and engage with before they are even able to go and start delivering all of these services to the customer. And it's about you exploring all of this network and see what sort of various parties that they might be engaging with so that you can actually draw a network diagram similar possibly to what is here, or you can even do it as a process map. I don't care how you do it, but it's about really showing me all of these interrelationships that are existing between the bank and other people for us to be able to go and deliver the service to the customer. Does that make sense?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Perfect. Any other questions, my friends?
No, sir.
No,
No,
sir.
sir. Thank you so much, sir.
No worries. Let me just.
Thank you, sir.
No worries. I'm gonna
you,
just
sir.
share my other one for a second. All right. So no more questions. No one at all.
No more question at all, sir. Yeah, it's all good.
No worries. Guys, please make sure you reach up to 10 and you continue working on a group assessment, which is due in week 10. And I want to say thank you very kindly for all your time and for all your effort. I really very much appreciate it. Continue working hard. We are very close to the end and to you guys achieving success. But now we have a very big assignment. We have to nail it. We have to do very well. We have to work very hard. We have to have no copying, no pasting, and that will help us to go and reach the right success. So let's get it done, guys. I appreciate your work. Keep it up. Thank you for all your hard work. Have a great day, guys. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Have a great day.
Bye.
Bye.